Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the video. I hope you're having a good day. It's your boy JIC or JIC, and today I have another film review for you guys. But before we get started with all that, I do want to say that if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. That way we can get the channel growing and just grow the community. So with that out of the way, let's get started with the video. I really enjoyed doing my last film review on The Matrix, which if you haven't checked out, you should go check it out. It was a lot of fun making that one. And so I thought, why not do another one right away? And in doing so, I want to do something a little bit different for this film review. For instance, I knew that going into the movie that The Matrix was going to be a good one, since I've heard a lot of hype around it and a lot of positive reviews on it. And so I want to do something a little bit different today, where I watched a movie that didn't do as good and that people didn't like as much. In addition, I did want to find something that was a little bit more recent than The Matrix, since that movie came out in 1999. And so I want to find something a little bit recent within the past 5 years or so. And so while looking for the movie, I stumbled upon Chaos Walking, which came out in 2021, which is pretty recent, as much recent as you can get it. And this movie did get a lot of negative reviews. I'm looking at it right now. It got a 38% on Metacritic with a 5.8 on IMDb and a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, for that last one, I was a bit confused or interested, since the audience score was 71%. So I was trying to see, whether who to trust, I would say, or lean towards, either the critics with the 21 score or the audience score with 71%. So today I kind of want to check it out for myself and see pretty much why it failed, because this movie did fail. In addition to the low scores, the film actually grossed a worldwide total of $25.4 million against a $100 million budget. So they didn't even make half of what they used. And like I said, not a lot of people saw this film, and those who saw it, at least on the audience, they liked it, but from the critics, they tore this apart. And so to go over what actually went wrong with the film, we actually had to start even before the film itself, back during the whole writing and production phase of it. You see, the film was actually an adaptation of the novel The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness, which is part of the Chaos Walking novel series. And this already puts them at a very crucial and critical situation, since the fan base of that novel series can be split into two groups, with the diehard fans supporting the film and wanting to see their favorite characters and story on the big screen, and the other group of diehard fans who kind of see no need in a film adaptation and kind of think it will ruin the legacy of the novel that they already love. In addition to the already split fan base that this film was already receiving, I would say that another obstacle that they were facing was that the film was a bit late to the game. And what I mean by that was the whole genre it was going for was that whole teenage rebellion revolution, which was popularized by films such as The Hunger Games or The Maze Runner. And Lionsgate actually required the rights back in 2011, even before those movies came out. And so they were kind of getting ready to be, part of that game. But filming didn't take place until 2017, which was already too late to that whole teenage rebellion phase. And so making a film on the genre that was pretty much popular a couple years ago and is considered overused or even outdated didn't work in their favor. Now, another thing kind of like going against this film was that it had 6 writers, which isn't really good all the time, since a lot of the ideas can get mixed up or not fleshed out enough, and so having a lot of writers isn't really a good thing. However, they did have Patrick Ness, who was the author of the original book series, and so that was one thing going for them. In addition to all this, they did have Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley as the lead co-stars, but even that couldn't save the film, since judging from the whole box office and budget, no one went to go see the film. And on top of all this, they actually even had an early release, which they kind of saw that the film was quote-unquote unreleasable, and as a result had to do reshoots, which took even longer, since both Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley already found fame in other projects like Star Wars and Marvel, with Spider-Man. And so doing the reshoots took even longer, since their schedules were pretty busy and it didn't really match each other's schedule. At this point, fans of the novel and people who were excited to see the film were kind of left concerned and expecting a mess of the final product. And well, what was that final product? It wasn't a good movie, but it also wasn't as bad as critics say it was. You see, the film isn't drastically bad, but it just isn't very enjoyable to watch, since it does suffer from a lot of minor things that kind of add up to it. Let me show you. The film takes place in 2257 AD on a planet called New World. And on there we see Todd Hewitt interact with the local people of his town and his dog Manchi. However, one thing we see that's weird or different about this planet is that there's like this cloud surrounding each individual, which kind of shows what they're thinking and their mind, basically. I honestly thought this was pretty interesting, since I feel like it would be very weird and uncomfortable for other people to see what you're thinking, and also to just see what other people are thinking as well. You know, our thoughts are pretty much the only private thing that we have, and for that to be exposed out there is something to be, I would say, afraid of in some ways. We also find out that there are only men on this planet, and that Todd is actually the youngest one, which means he's going to be the last one to die, basically. In addition, we also meet other characters like Aaron, the preacher of the town. We meet Davy Prentice, who is the son of the mayor, and obviously Mayor Prentice. We then see Daisy Ridley's character Viola on a spacecraft with other people on it, and it seems like they're trying to enter the new world. And they even mention talking about like a second wave and how these people were expecting them. Unfortunately though, as they enter the atmosphere of New World, the ship goes haywire and Viola starts to see the noise, the thoughts of her male crew members. At some point, Viola and Todd meet, and we see that she's the surviving member of the whole crash with the spacecraft, and she's brought into Prentice Town to meet with the mayor. In the meeting, the mayor tells her that the women were pretty much wiped out by the spackle, which were the native species of the planet, and that they also didn't even have a noise compared to the men. Viola then starts to feel weird when he's pressing her about where her mothership is going to land in order to rescue her, and is able to escape with her even hearing his secret plan in taking over the mothership and taking over the whole planet. Viola then escapes to Todd's farm, where him and his adoptive parents Ben and Killian come to an agreement that he has to pretty much bring her to another town in order to save her, and so she could communicate with her mothership to rescue her and pick her up from there. Unfortunately though, the mayor does arrive to the barn and kind of see that they're escaping, and Killian is killed by one of the members, and Todd and Viola just escape. At this point in the film, from then on, it's pretty much them journeying to the new town called Far Branch, and pretty much just their interactions with each other, which I would say they have good chemistry in the film. And honestly, I would say that this film feeling wasn't really their fault. I felt like they played their characters pretty good, and it was just unfortunate that they were given this script. They then reach Far Branch, which they learn that there isn't any means of communication, and Todd even sees other women on there and is surprised to see someone younger than him on that town. And unfortunately, the mayor and his crew reach the town, and they have to escape. Unfortunately though, as they're escaping, Aaron catches up to them and even kills Manchi by drowning him, which was very sad, and Todd becomes infuriated and also sad about this. They then reach a tower which they decide to follow in order to get to the new town, which is called Haven. But on the way there, they find a spaceship that was crashed on there, and Viola decides that she can probably use the communication system on there to contact the mothership and sort of tell them what's going on down there. And then the whole climax of the film is Viola killing Aaron as she's able to successfully communicate with the mothership, and a whole showdown between Todd and the mayor, where the mayor actually shoots Todd and eventually losing to him because he's able to use his noise in order to conjure up the women that he killed, and so he's able to distract him enough for Viola to push him off the cliff. The film then ends with Todd waking up in a medical room and Viola telling him that the second wave will commence and that she will be staying longer on the planet with him. Now, I did leave out a couple things from there and I oversimplified the film, but to some extent that's pretty much what it is, and like some of the little things on there are what I'll be going into right now in this analysis, where I'll kind of say what was different from the book and the movie, and pretty much what I thought wasn't good or smart. Pretty much I'm just gonna be nitpicking a lot of the stuff that happened in this film. Now, I'm not very familiar with the novel series, but I did look online and saw that there were a lot of changes that they made for the film. For example, in the book series, all the animals have a noise as well, and in the movie none of them do. And I think this would have made the movie a lot different, obviously, with a change like this. But just seeing, especially during the death scenes of Whiskey, the horse that Todd rides on, and Manchi, I feel like they would have been a lot more dark and definitely would have hit harder. Now, whether that being a good or bad thing depends on the person, I would say, but there's one change right there. Another change in the film was Nick Jonas's character Davy, which apparently in the book series he has a bigger part and plays a bigger role in there. In the movie, he's only given a couple minutes of screen time and is pretty much not even that big of a character. Another change in the film was Todd's interaction with the spackle. In the book series, he doesn't accidentally kill it, but he kills it out of fear and it doesn't even know they're alive. Whereas in the movie, it's pretty known that the Spackle are still alive, and he almost kills it not out of fear but out of hate, since he believes, or at least was told by the mayor, that this is what killed his mother. And so that would say that was a definitely big change to the film, even though it was pretty small. But just knowing the character behind Todd, I would say if you're trying to look for that, it's a big change. Now, two other significant changes I'm gonna go over. I would say these are the biggest ones, and one of them is that there's a whole character pretty much taken away from the book series. The character is called Wilf, I believe, and in the book he kind of helps Todd and Viola in their journey, whereas in the film he just doesn't exist. So they just took away that character completely. And the last thing that I want to mention is pretty much the ending. In the book series, or at least in the first book, which the movie's based off of, the book ends with pretty much the mayor taking over all of New World and Todd and Viola not succeeding. Whereas in the movie, they're able to call the mothership and the mayor is killed. So that's like a big change right there. I don't know if that was good or bad. And like I said, all depends on the person and what you think. But at least there's no cliffhanger, and it pretty much just wraps the whole movie up by itself. It's like if this movie didn't even expect a sequel. Now, I do want to mention a couple things in the film that pretty much didn't make sense to me, and kind of why I thought the film at least wasn't good in a sense. One of these things is actually Todd's acts against or for the mayor. At the beginning of the film, he kind of just is loyal to him and wants to impress him. But once he meets Viola, that's when he starts to change, and out of nowhere, like, goes against the mayor by rescuing Viola. Now, obviously this is for plot purposes and showing that Todd is a good character and a good person, but it just doesn't make sense because, you know, at the time he was still pretty much brainwashed into thinking that the mayor was a good person and that he was even like a war hero to him. And so I find it weird when he just out of nowhere decides to help someone who he doesn't even know. And yes, obviously it's because he is a good person and he finds Viola attractive and wants to help her out and sees that she doesn't want to be there. But like I said, it's like in a way out of nowhere, like he decides to help a person he doesn't know over someone that he's loyal and wants to impress. Another thing was pretty much Viola not having a reason to feel bad or weird about the mayor. Like, I know obviously the mayor is a bad guy, but when looking at that scene, I feel like any other person would have in a way trusted what he said, because it looked like he was definitely sad about the women being killed, and him desperately wanting to know where the ship was going to land could have, at least in the way I thought of it, him thinking of a way to get off the planet rather than taking over. And so for her to feel weird about that, in a way, if it was me in that place, I would have thought he was just desperate enough to get off the planet. Now, a thing that I thought about the film that was underutilized and just didn't make sense to me was the usage of the noise. At the beginning of the film, Todd uses it in order to scare a horse, and it knocks over Davy to the ground. And I thought this was a good tactic in order to maybe even scare someone, surprise someone, use it as a decoy in order to run away or hide, or maybe as a disguise in order to like appear out of nowhere and fight back, which they do use it later in the film, but it's not as used as I thought it would be. Like, living on a planet and having a noise, I feel like people, and especially a town like that, which was pretty much like a dictatorship, they would have used it to fight, you know, use it as a weapon in a way. But Todd only uses it like that one time, and then later in the film at the end when he uses it to defeat the mayor. And yeah, there are other people who do use it, like the mayor even uses it as a way to use it like a fence and pretty much trap Viola at the beginning of the film. Ben also uses it in order to like help Viola and Todd escape by conjuring up Viola and using her as a decoy, but it's not really her, it's the noise, and they're able to escape from another part of the town. But I thought it would have been used like a lot more, like when Aaron catches up to them. I thought Todd would have been able to use his noise and pretty much trick Aaron into thinking they're somewhere else, but he kind of just doesn't and just watches Manji die, unfortunately. And so I thought that was pretty weird that they didn't really use it a lot. I don't know if they don't use it in the book. Like, I don't know if those usages in the movie were in the book and pretty much the only thing from the book, but I just thought they could have used the noise a lot more and utilized it a whole lot more in the film. And so that's pretty much all I had to say that was wrong about the film. I really don't think it's a bad one. It's just, I would say, unfortunate to be late and just have too many writers on it, where a lot of the things didn't really come into fruition and some of the things were just underutilized or just didn't make sense. You know, like I said, when you have a lot of writers, it becomes a mess. And so not every good thought is being put in, and some of the bad ones are getting in the mix. I did notice some of like the reshoots in some of them where Todd looks a bit different than he did before, but it wasn't really that noticeable until the end. At least I think he just looked a lot different from when he did throughout the rest of the film. It was definitely a lot easier to watch the first time, but upon rewatching in order to write the script for this video, I got bored even before the first act ended. So I would say this movie, at least to the average person, isn't really rewatchable. But hey, you know, you guys could check it out and just see what I saw. Basically, I would say I'm giving this film a weak, maybe 4 out of 10. I would say, like I said, it wasn't that bad the first time watching it, but during the second time, after kind of knowing that some of the stuff really didn't get fleshed out more, it definitely was a bit disappointing not seeing the noise be used a lot more, and just some of these choices and the characteristics of the people and their actions just didn't make sense, at least in the universe. Anyways, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed the film. I had a good time making it. I would say definitely not as much as The Matrix, but I mean, not all these movies are going to be pretty good. I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember, keep it peaceful, stay safe, have a good one.